Hello again, Bat fans! In this episode, we check out one of the most interesting and obscure Batman stories of the late 80s called The Cult. Batman wakes up from a nightmare in which he murders the Joker, but reality is no better. Batman is chained up somewhere in a dark tunnel, beaten, bloody, and weak. The man responsible is called Deacon Blackfire, a man who opened an innocent-looking shelter for the homeless of Gotham, but who in reality has been recruiting the homeless for his personal army. He managed to capture Batman and keeps him starved and tortures him to break his will and turn him into one of his soldiers. Batman got involved in this case when several criminals in Gotham started to disappear or were brutally killed. While Batman was investigating, he was shot from behind by one of Blackfire's men and he was dragged to the sewers of Gotham. There, they keep telling Batman the stories of how Blackfire is supposed to be a messenger of God, a man who has lived for centuries and has come now as a savior that will help the poor and the innocent of Gotham against all evil. Batman has been missing for too many days, leaving Gordon and Robin worried about his whereabouts. Days pass and Gotham City becomes like a ghost town, with the streets now strangely empty. Even criminals are now asking the police for help to find their missing friends, but the people of Gotham are fine with the criminals being missing. Finally, Deacon Blackfire decides it's time and he drugs Batman with a powerful chemical that gives Blackfire the chance to brainwash Batman and make him believe anything he says. Like this, Blackfire convinces Batman that he is a savior, thanks to a giant wooden totem of Blackfire's face, and Batman becomes a follower of Deacon Blackfire. Batman is forced to kill criminals in Gotham with the rest of Blackfire's followers. Although he tries to resist, Batman is still very weak due to the lack of proper food. Blackfire's men keep punishing Batman, which causes Batman to fall further into self-doubt and depression. Eventually, one of Blackfire's men takes Batman to the street with him, without telling the others. This man only wants to kill someone in the surface, and takes Batman as protection. But when this man kills the innocent victim and is confronted by a cop, Batman recovers a bit of his sanity and stops the crook before leaving to wander the streets of Gotham looking for food. Batman goes on to steal any food he can get his hands on, and slowly recovers from weeks of starvation. Meanwhile, Blackfire's follower is arrested and reveals his master's plan to the police, who now finally realize that the strange events in Gotham are part of a massive conspiracy by Blackfire. With this information, Robin goes down to the sewers in disguise looking for Batman. The Dark Knight, on the other hand, has barely recovered some of his strength, and he decides to go down to the sewers to confront Blackfire and overcome his fear of the man who broke him. Batman finds Blackfire's private chamber and realizes that Blackfire is nothing but a con artist. But before he could do anything about it, Batman is attacked from behind and Blackfire commands his men to dispose of the Dark Knight. In the surface, Blackfire's men start killing city officials to create chaos and confusion. Gordon opens an investigation on Blackfire and learns that there are records of the man from almost a century ago. Down in the sewers, Batman escapes from Blackfire's men, but he falls to the water and is carried away by the current of the sewers. Robin watches everything and jumps to the water to follow Batman. After passing several dark tunnels filled with rats, Robin makes his way to a dark place, a place filled with the corpses of Blackfire's victims, and in the corner, Batman, whose mind has clearly snapped once again. Robin helps Batman get a grip of himself, and they start making their way out of the sewers. In the meantime, Blackfire and his men continue killing the city officials, and now the people of Gotham are divided about their actions. To make matters worse, the homeless of all the cities close to Gotham have arrived, seeking to join Blackfire, who realizes that his plan of manipulating people through religion has worked out perfectly. Batman and Robin finally make it back to Blackfire's headquarters, and Batman realizes that the magical totem was nothing but a piece of wood, and that everything was a trick thanks to Blackfire's drugs. Batman and Robin eventually find Blackfire and spot him bathing in blood. They are discovered and have to flee from the horde of Blackfire's followers. In the surface, Blackfire starts a violent takeover by killing reporters, seriously injuring Commissioner Gordon and taking over the television signals to broadcast a message to the city. Meanwhile, Batman and Robin are surrounded by enemies, but Batman is in no shape to fight, leaving Robin to deal with the hordes of brainwashed homeless alone. Robin makes a valiant effort but is overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of the enemy, and the sight of Jason being defeated gives Batman an adrenaline boost that he uses to absolutely destroy the enemies with extreme violence. Batman becomes a brutal avenger for a moment, and without more enemies, he and Robin finally make their way to the streets, where things are not looking any better. The National Guard tries to stop Blackfire's army, but they fail and the government commands the citizens of Gotham to evacuate the city, leaving the place at the complete mercy of Deacon Blackfire. Batman and Robin call Alfred to pick them up, and once they are driving home to safety, Bruce decides he no longer wants to fight for Gotham. It only takes Bruce a couple of days and a nightmare about his parents to change his mind, and he starts making arrangements to stop Blackfire. Gotham is now worse than ever, and the city has been completely taken by Blackfire, which is why Bruce and Jason decide to start using firearms with tranquilizer darts and a special secret weapon. A short time later, Batman and Robin strike down Blackfire's followers in the streets of Gotham using a massive monster truck Batmobile, armed with several weapons, both lethal and non-lethal. The brainwashed followers don't stand a chance against such force, and Batman makes his way to the Gotham Square, where he uses the truck as a decoy to take out half of Blackfire's followers, while he goes down to the sewers with Robin, and they continue fighting the hordes of homeless. After taking down dozens of homeless, Robin is injured in the leg and has to stay behind while Batman goes to confront Blackfire, who is eagerly awaiting for the Dark Knight. Blackfire greets Batman and wants the Dark Knight to kill him, because that way he will die as a martyr and his mission will be continued by his followers. But Batman refuses to kill him, and instead, he gives Blackfire the beating of his life. Batman doesn't hold any punches, and when Blackfire is destroyed, begging for mercy, his followers realize how weak and pathetic he is. They turn against Blackfire and they murder the fake savior, as Batman and Robin watch helplessly how Blackfire is brutally killed by the monsters he created. Order is finally restored to Gotham, and Batman decides to burn the Blackfire totem, just in case. Batman the Cult is a 4-issue miniseries, written by Jim Starlin and illustrated by Bernie Wrightson. It was published in 1988, and it is one of the most intriguing Batman stories. It is certainly one of Jim Starlin's most notable efforts, mostly because of how unusual the story is. This is, after all, the first time in history that Batman is actually broken and defeated by any enemy, and it's not even one of his usual adversaries, but rather a completely new character. And for that same reason, the pacing of the story feels very strange. Because Starling has to introduce Deacon Blackfire, his purpose, and has to get him to break Batman and take over Gotham, most of the story dwells in darkness, constant defeat, and there is no sign of hope until the very end. The first 3 issues of the story are all about the fall of Gotham, the breaking of Batman and Blackfire's takeover, leaving only the final issue to the rise of the Dark Knight and the defeat of evil. All of that makes for a rather grim tale. But that in itself is not precisely bad, because that seems to be the purpose of the story. Starling uses the theme of fear throughout the story and mainly how it affects Batman. Starling explains how Bruce became Batman to overcome his fear of bats, his fear of losing someone loved again. In the story, Bruce has constant nightmares, where his worst fears come to life. And after Blackfire defeated him, Batman has to find enough courage to overcome the fear of the man who broke him. So you see how this story is supposed to be rather dark, and I'm guessing that's why they got Bernie Wrightson to do the art. He was best known for his dark and horror art style, which was perfect to set the mood that Starling was looking for this story. Wrightson's art is full of shadows and dark outlines, which is perfect for a story that develops mostly in the sewers, the underworld of Gotham. His art shines best when he has to illustrate the Dark Knight in full force. We get to see the larger-than-life character thanks to his rendition of the Batman, but he also achieves a terrific look on Batman while he is broken and defeated, making you believe this is a broken man. In short, Wrightson's art was absolutely gorgeous and perfect for this kind of Batman story, which combines the supernatural with the dark, the mystery with the horror. Now, if there is an objection I can say about this book, is how hard it tries to be The Dark Knight Returns. Starling uses so many elements that worked for Miller, and this is what I mean when I say that I dislike people copying that story. This is the first time someone deliberately used elements from The Dark Knight Returns, and it feels blatantly obvious that they wanted to repeat the successful formula. Just so you get an idea, the cult includes the same page and panel layout with the talking heads, the monstrous Batmobile, Batman using firearms, and even the flashback scene to the murder of the Waynes seem like copied from The Dark Knight Returns. Only 2 years after the book was published, there were already people trying to emulate the success of Miller's work, which is absurd and I dislike it entirely. But besides that, Starling did an outstanding job. He introduced the concept of the Miagani, the ancient tribe of Gotham that was later used by Grant Morrison in his Batman run. Starling also established a grandiose enemy in Deacon Blackfire. This man systematically takes over Gotham, first by recruiting an army of homeless, then he removes competition by killing the criminals of Gotham and gains the public's acceptance for this. With an army at his command and the approval of the citizens, he then takes down Batman before he starts taking down the rest of the authorities. It's a violent takeover that starts slowly, and when it becomes unbearable, it's too late, as he has gained too much power. The nature of the character and the story was obviously leading to his death, and it's completely understandable. Imagine trying to bring back this enemy again. Any other kind of evil plot that they would come up with would pale when compared with the cult. It would have defeated the whole purpose of Deacon Blackfire. Although I hear he's backing the new comics, well, so much for that. Anyway, Deacon Blackfire is a perfect picture of a megalomaniac who only seeks total control and power. And the reaction of the people of Gotham is very close to reality, don't you think? History has shown us that some people are willing to believe blindly in someone who is clearly evil, but they can't or refuse to see reality. Blackfire has lived for centuries by bathing in human blood, which is why he understands how to manipulate people. But in real life, there is no need to be immortal to get away with evil thanks to the support of a group of blind followers. Just look around and you'll see it happening over and over again. Blackfire's plan was to divide and conquer. He succeeds and even manages to brainwash Batman, forcing him to kill. That is the worst kind of defeat for the Batman, a mental defeat. However, the will of Batman prevails, and in the end he overcomes the brainwash and stops Blackfire's madness. It just goes to show how damn strong and determined Batman is. Although yes, he quit at the end of the third issue, it was simply a cliffhanger to start the last issue of the series. Let's also not ignore the fact that Batman only recovers his mind and his will when he remembers the murder of his parents specifically, which comes back to the fact that what fuels the Batman is the tragedy that shaped his life forever. If he were to heal, to grow and get over that trauma, there would be no Batman. And he cannot allow that. He cannot leave Gotham unprotected. Never. The supporting characters of this story didn't play a very important role. Gordon was just there to elaborate Blackfire's background and to get shot near the end. Alfred, on the other hand, was a bit more important, as he took the heroes to safety and he showed support for Bruce in the most important moment, which tells us just how relevant Alfred is for Batman's mind. Now, something I found disturbing was the lack of usual enemies. When Blackfire clears the streets of crime, people start going around in shock that there is not enough crime in Gotham. And yes, it is quite shocking, but then again, where were the rest of the villains? Were they all locked up in Arkham or arrested in prison? I feel like Starling missed a terrific opportunity to show us how the Rogues Gallery would have reacted to the chaos that was going on in Gotham. Nonetheless, he made up for this small oversight by writing a really good Robin. This is one of the last times that Jim Starlin writes Jason Todd as Robin, and surprisingly, he is a great character in this story, as he is key to help Batman defeat Blackfire. Robin is a good detective and a great fighter, which is surprising considering Starling didn't like Robin. I feel like Starling only used Robin here because he needed the Boy Wonder to make the story work. And I believe this because this story was published only a few months before that terrible moment we all know about. Which leads me to the next video, where we will check out the last Robin stories in the prelude to A Death in the Family. If you don't want to miss that, subscribe now and come back for the next episode. Until then, Godspeed, my friends.